Finally, today I'm gonna be done with the sixth part and the whole story, a municipal report. So we never had such a long story in our show. Let's just do this. Just before dinner, Major Wentworth Caswell bore down upon me with the greetings of a long lost friend. I have seen few men whom I have so instantaneously hated, and of whom it was so difficult to be rid. I was standing at the bar when he invited me, therefore I could not wave the white ribbon in his face. I would I would have paid gladly for the drinks, hoping thereby to escape another. But he was one of those despicable, despicable, roaring, adventuring beavers, advertising beavers, who must have brass bands and fireworks attend upon every cent that they waste in their follies. With an air of product producing millions, he drew two $1 bills from a pocket and dashed one of them upon the bar. I looked once more at the dollar bill with the upper right hand corner missing, torn through the middle and patched with a strip of blue tissue paper. It was my dollar bill again. I could have been no it could have been no other. I went up to my room. The drizzle and the monotony of a dreary, eventless southern town had made me tired and listless. I remember just before I went to bed, I mentally disposed of the mysterious dollar bill, which may have formed the clue to a tremendously fine detective story of San Francisco, by saying to myself sleepily, seems as if a lot of people here own stock in the hard hack drivers trust. Seems as if a lot of people here own stock in the hack drivers trust. Pays dividends promptly too. Wonder if. Then I fell asleep. King City Wire was at his post the next day and rattled, rattled again. My bones over the stones out of 861. He was to wait and rattle me back again when I was ready. As I lay there, looked paler, and cleaner, and frailer than she had looked on the day before. After she had signed the contract at 8 cents per word, she grew still paler and began to slip out of her chair. Without much trouble, I managed to get her up on the antediluvian, 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 diluvian house horsehair sofa, and then I ran out to the sidewalks and yelled to the coffee-colored pirate to bring a doctor. To bring a doctor. With a wisdom that I had not suspected in him, he abandoned his team and struck off up the street afoot, releasing, realizing, rea- realizing the value of speed. Sorry. In 10 minutes, he returned with a grave, gray haired, and capable man of medicine. In a few words, worth much less than 8 cents each, I explained to him my presence, presence and the hollow house of mystery. He bowed with stately understanding and turned to the old Negro. Uncle Cesar, he said calmly, run up to my house and ask Miss Lucy to give you a cream pitcher, full of fresh milk and half a tumbler of port wine. And hurry back. Don't drive, run. I want you to get back sometime this week. It occurred to me that Dr. Merriman also felt this distrust as to the speeding powers of the land pirate steeds. After Uncle Caesar was gone, lumber, lumberingly, lumberingly, but swiftly, up the street, the doctor looked me over with great politeness and as much careful calculation until he had decided that I might do. It is only a case of insufficient nutrition, he said. In other words, the result of poverty, pride, and starvation. Mrs. Caswell has many devoted friends who would be glad to aid her, but she will accept nothing except from that old Negro, Uncle Caesar, who was once owned by her family. Mrs. Caswell, said I, in surprise. And then I looked at the contract and saw that she had signed at Azalea Adair Caswell. I thought she was Miss Adair, I said. Married to a drunk man, worthless loafer, sir, said the doctor. It is said that he robs her even of a small sums of her old servant contributes towards her supper. When the milk and wine had been brought, the doctor soon revived Zella there. She sat up and talked of the beauty of the autumn leaves that were then in season and their high of color. She referred lightly to her painting Caesar, 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 as the outcome of an old palpitation, palpitation of the heart, impenitent her as she lay on the door. I told him that I was within my power and intentions to make a reasonable advance of money to Azalea there on future contributions to the magazine, and he seemed pleased. By the way, he said, perhaps you would like to know that you have had royalty for a coachman. Old Caesar's grandfather was a king in Kong. Caesar himself has royal ways, as you may have observed. As the doctor was moving off, I heard Uncle Caesar's voice inside. Did he get did he get before of them $2 from you, Miss Zelia? Yes, Caesar, I heard Zella there answer weakly. And then I went and I concluded business negotiations with our contributor. I assumed the responsibility of advancing $50, putting in put it putting it as a necessary formality, and bending our bargain. And then Uncle Caesar drove me back to the hotel. Here ends all the story as far as I can testify as a witness. Testify. The rest must be only bare statements on facts. At about 6 o'clock, I went out for a stroll. Uncle Caesar was at his corner. He threw open the door of his carriage, flourishing his duster, and began his depressing formula. Step right in, sir. 50 cents to anywhere in the city. Hacks perfectly clean. Hacks perfectly clean, sir. Just got back from a funeral. And then he recognized me, and I think his eyesight was getting bad. His coat had taken on a few more faded shades of color. The twine strings were more frayed and ragged. The last remaining button, the button of yellow horn, was gone. A motley descendant, a motley descendant of kings was Uncle Caesar. About 2 hours later, I saw an excited crowd bes- besieging, 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 besieging the front of the drugstore. In a desert where nothing happens, this was manna. So I edged my way inside. I edged my way inside. On an extemporized couch of empty boxes and chairs was stretched the mortal corpore- corporeality corporeality of the Major Wentworth Caswell. A doctor was testing him for the immortal ingredient. His decision was that it was conspicuous by its absence. The erstwhile erstwhile Major had been found dead on a dark street and brought by curious and annoyed citizens night to the drugstore. The late human being had been engaged in a terrific battle. The details show that Loafer and reprobate reprobate foe tough Loafer and reprobate tough had he had been also a warrior, but he had lost. His hands were yet clenched clenched so tightly that his fingers would not be opened. The gentle citizens who had known him stood about and searched their vocabularies to find some good words. if it were possible to speak of him. One kind looking man said through after much thought. When Cass was about 14, he was one of the best spellers in school. While I stood there, the fingers of the right hand of the man that was, which hung down the side of a white pine box, relaxed and dropped something at my feet. I covered it with one foot quietly, and a little later I picked up and pocketed it. I reasoned that I reasoned at that in the I reasoned at that in his last struggle, his hand must have seized that object unwittingly, unwittingly, and hand held it in a death grip. That must be that $1 bill. At the hotel that night, the main topic of conversation, with the possible exceptions of politics and prohibition, was the demise of the Major Caswell. Demise. I heard one man say to a group of listeners, "In my opinion, gentlemen, Caswell was murdered by some of these no account niggers for his money. He had $50 this afternoon, which he showed to several gentlemen in the hotel. When he was found, the money was not on his person. I left the city the next morning at 9, and as train was crossing the bridge over the Cumberland River, I took out of my pocket a yellow horn overcoat button the size of a 50-cent piece with frayed ends, of course, of course, course, twine hanging from it, and cast it out of the window into the slow, muddy waters below. I wonder what's doing in Buffalo. All right, guys, thank you for listening to me today and the whole story. See you tomorrow. Bye.